Okay, so in this particular session, we will be talking about the threat hunting and very important concepts that are related to the attack. Okay, so let's understand the timeline of an attack. So in this particular example, we will be seeing that how the attack is happening and what are the various steps that are directly involved into an attack. So if I say the very first moment the organization is attacked by someone, so the very first step is reconnaissance. Okay, so the attacker is doing the reconnaissance. What is reconnaissance mean? Reconnaissance meaning knowing the internal configuration or systems in your organization. So basically, reconnaissance is dealing with the area of cybersecurity operations where the attacker is identifying that what are the systems into your network, what are the probably users you have created into your network, what are the various softwares you are using, what is the hardware you are using, or what are the network connections. If he is enough capable, he can also find out the IP schema, and he if is enough capable, he can also find out a lot of things related to you, like about the how many ports you have opened and how many services you are running. So this is the very first step any attacker is doing. After this reconnaissance, the attacker is going to attack on your system. Okay, so attacker is going to attack on your system. He may do any type of attack, whether it is a DDoS attack or data exfiltration attack or somewhere DNS attack or something. So at this moment of time, we are not concerned at what type of attack, because there are various type of attack that an attacker can do. But we are concerned about the timeline. So first step is reconnaissance by the attacker, and second step is the attacker is doing the attack onto the system. After each and every attack, there is an alarm. Okay, so this is a very important point, that whenever there is an attack, there is an alarm into your system. Okay, alarm means whether if you have implemented some SIEM tools, your system can give an alarm, and in case you are not using any SIEM tool, then some authorities may give an alarm, or your system got down. Okay, your system got down, so it's also one of the type of an alarm. So the first step is reconnaissance by attacker, second is the attack onto the system, and third point is the alarm. But the issue is that the timeline between the attack happens. Okay, the timeline between the attack happens and the actual alarms raised into your system, the time duration between it is 200 days. Okay, so it's a report by the Ponemon Institute Survey 2022, where it is said that around 200 days of timeline is in between the attack onto the system and between the alarm. It is the mean time to identify that you are actually under an attack. So this is very important part, that in the initial 200 days, actually our situation is just like this. We are actually sleeping into a long breath, and we don't know what is actually happening into our system. In the fourth phase, we are actually recovering. After the third phase, when we got an alarm, we try to recover from the system. When we are trying to recover from the system, again it takes around 70 days. So this time is called mean time to contain. So MTC is the mean time to contain, and on an average you need around 70 days to restore your system, to recover your system to the original state. So we have seen certain stages where we have reconnaissance, we have attack onto the system, mean time to identify, alarm is there, and then we are recording. So the work which you can done before this alarm rises is called hunting, and the work you do usually after the alarm is called the reactive. Okay, so one is a proactive. So this word is a proactive. Hunting is a proactive word, and uh, all your actions which you are doing post alarm is called the reactive. So this is the scenario which is very important whenever we talk about the timeline of an attack. So if you can see the time where the attack has been happened and time where the system is being recovered, so the total time is 270 days. So you can see that around 270 days mean time is there between the attack and the system recovery. These are the average statistics. Maybe it may be different for each and every organization, but they have research or around 300 in organizations, and these are the mean data that is coming. So today we are focusing onto this particular topic that is called hunting. Hunting is something which is a proactive measure in order to reduce the MTI. Okay, maybe you can't reduce the MTC because there are a lot of configuration changes you have to do. But at least we try to reduce this MTC by 50%. So if you are able to reduce this MTC by 50%, then definitely you can get a better results. See, particularly in this duration, in this reconnaissance duration, some attacker is looking to your system. So let us suppose this is an attacker, this is a bad guy. So what bad guy is doing with your system? Bad guy is doing scanning your systems. Basically, he try to scan your systems. He can use Nmap for knowing the ports, open ports. What are the protocols you are using? He can use Nikto for finding the vulnerabilities. He can use OpenVAS. He can use NISAS. So all these tools we have covered somewhere into our this training. But the bad guy is also doing the same part to know more about it. Also, the bad guy is trying to finding the vulnerabilities into your system. He tried to exploit the human factor. How he is trying to exploit the human factor? By phishing, vishing, and smishing. Okay, so these are the three areas that the bad guy is doing, or I could say any malicious actor can do. And also, he is doing the footprinting that what type of network you have, what are the versions you have, the best to best detail he can extract out of the system. So here we are getting two different words, that is IOA and IOC. So IOA is something called as indicator of attack, and IOC is called indicator of compromise. So now we will going to discuss that what is IOA and what is IOC. See, when we talk about IOA, it's a proactive measure and it is used for hunting, and IOC is a reactive measure and we use after a post incident to find out that my system is being compromised or not. So proactive it means IOA means detecting the intent of what an attacker is trying to accomplish is basically IOA, and IOC means evidence on a computer that indicates that security of the network has been breached. So these are two important areas that we need to consider, that is IOA and IOC. We will see all these things in very detail. So what is IOA means? Indicator of attack. So indicator of attack means if somebody is trying to do a recon on your system and he has successfully gained a little privileges. So it doesn't mean that if he has gained privileges, he has done a attack onto your system. But there is a chance that he has a lot of information about your particular system. So basically, when we talk about indicator of attack, so these are the behaviors or patterns, I could say, that are observed into a network or system that could lead to a signal which could lead to a potential malicious activity, often before an actual compromise attack. Okay, so that is important, that IOA is something you can observe into a system before the actual compromise attack. Unlike the IOCs, we will discuss in the next slide, which focus on the evidence of the successful breach. So we are getting a lot of IOCs. We are getting IOCs in the form of IPs. We are getting IOCs in the form of hashes or some of the domains, URLs we are getting. But IOA is not any specific IP or something. IOA emphasizes on the intent and action of the attacker in the real time. It also make you able to do the proactive defense. See, when we talk about some of the basic examples of IO, so we are getting like unusual login patterns. Like if you are finding multiple failed logins or login at unusual hours or atypical geographical locations are identified, especially if that user has a high privileges. So these unusual login patterns can be helpful. Secondly, suspicious file movements. So attempt to move or rename or sometimes deleting the file in a critical system directories or location where sensitive data is stored. So these are the suspicious file movement that usually considered as an IOC. Sometimes we also have an important IOA, that is a C2C communication, that is command and control communication. In this particular area, connections to known and suspected malicious IPs, address, domains, particularly when using non-standard protocol. Like for SSH, we are using the port 22. But if you find that SSH services are running on 8092, so it means it's a suspicious movement, and we have to find out that what are the issues. Also, if you find that there is a execution of a scripting tool, like there are certain scripting tools like PowerShell, Bash script, and these scripts are executing from the non-administrative users or during non-business hours. It can give you a signal that attackers is doing effort to manipulate your system. So this execution of script tools is a very important area. Then disabling the security tools. If or on a very fine day, in morning you find that your system is disabled, your antivirus is disabled, your firewalls is disabled, and you have not done that. It means there is attempt to disable or modify antivirus. The firewalls are being modified or other security configuration without any legitimate reasons. It means that there is an issue. This is an indicator of attack. Or you will find that unusual data exfiltration pattern is there. Like usually you are having around data bandwidth of 3 Mbps per second. You have a data transfer rate, but on sudden you find it to be 25. So unusual data exfiltration, data speed is there. So whenever you find large amount of data being transferred out of the network, especially if this occurs through unauthorized channels or outside of the normal business hours, then definitely it's a alarm. Then other part is changes to permission and access control. So if you find that there are privilege escalations particularly, so if there are certain privilege escalations and there are unexplained modifications in the user permissions or creation of new administrator's account, so it could lead to a symptom that there is a indicator of attack and you may be under attack. It doesn't mean that the attack has been executed. It means that something is there which could lead you to attack. So this is a very important area. That then network scanning and probing. So if you find that there is a lot of increased activity that indicate reconnaissance. See, you have seen Nmap. Okay, you have seen Nikto. You have seen a lot of tools. So we have done a lot of tools, but every Nmap request or every Nikto request will generate a traffic into your network also, because he's trying to scan your network. So a lot of traffic is being generated to scan your network. As a network administrator, you can also monitor your network, that what type of queries are being generated. It's a usual query. If you're getting a 2 or 3 query of Nmap in a month, it's usual. But if you are getting 500 queries in a minute, it means that somebody is trying to do an aggressive reconnaissance on you. So indicated increased activity that indicates reconnaissance, such as port scanning or file enumeration, especially from unknown sources within the network. Okay, so if the sources are unknown, it means there is a big issue. So abnormal user behavior, suspicious network traffic, privilege escalations, unexpected system changes, malicious or abnormal script, and suspicious account activities will lead to a indicator of attack. Now we will see that how you are going to do the threat hunting. So how? you are going to do a threat hunting. So for threat hunting, you need to have a threat box. Okay, so it is not a physical box, it is a hypothetical box where you have your IOCs, you have indicator of attack, you have intel and threat feeds, and you are having a detailed about the vulnerability analysis about your system. So these are the three areas which you require if you want to create a threat box. And this threat box will be helpful you to analyze that how my system is behaving and how could I do the entire threat hunt. So Indian proof of compromise, we have already discussed. Uh, Anything which is lying into your system and you find it into your system which could lead to a potential attack, it means it's an indicator of compromise. So if I define the indicator of compromise, so basically they are the pieces of forensic data that indicates a potential or confirmed security breach. So if there is a IOC into your system, so let us suppose some government body or some entity has released certain IOCs and you find that IOCs into your system, it means that you are under an attack and there is a confirmed security breach. IOC also served as an evidence for malicious activities such as artifacts that left behind by the attackers. How it left behind by the attackers, like in the form of the logs, in the form of some files, and are the key components in identifying and investigating security incidents. Because IOCs are very much important when you are identifying the security incidents. By recognizing the indicator of compromise, you, your cybersecurity team, or anyone who is dedicated can detect more attacks, who can detect what type of attack it is, and even if they have already impacted the system, and how much impact the system has been done. Usually, when we talk about the common type of indicator of compromise, we have unusual network traffic. So we are getting certain unfamiliar IP addresses, abnormal communication with the malicious IPs. We are getting malicious IP address and domains because your system is creating a connections to the blacklisted or known malicious IPs. Like you people are getting a lot of directives or regulatory compliances to be done in order to block the certain IOCs. So these IOCs could be a potential threat to your system. Then we have file hashes. So file hashes is something which is having a unique digital footprint. It could be encrypted in MD5, SHA-1, SHA-256, and it is associated with the malware files. So if there is a file which is associated with the malware, so you can extract the hash of that particular file and you can compare these against the threat intelligence database that can identify the malicious file. Apart from this, you can talk about the abnormal account behavior. So we have accounts into our system, some user accounts, some admin accounts. So sometimes compromised user accounts might show certain suspicious activities, such as accessing your resources outside of regular patterns. So if you have a regular pattern of accessing this particular file from this particular A, but now A, B, C, D, different files are trying, different systems are trying to access this particular file. It means there is the abnormal account behavior you have found out. Apart from that, there are certain malware signatures, unusual, I would say, system file changes, sometimes unusual registry changes, or new files has been created, or sometimes data exploitation, like I used to say always into the DNS queries. So these all things are covering under the IOCs. So we have seen IOCs, IOA we have done, and internal and threat feeds. Internal threat feeds is something you are getting from the uh, regulators. Okay, so intel and threat feeds are very much important, and they help you to make a good resilience into a system. So they are the critical components of the cybersecurity, and they provide real time or near real time data because sometimes there are 4 or 5 days before late on the potential threats, and they also help you in organizing the protect against the evolving security risk. So threat intel is something it involves collecting your entire potential threats, analyzing it, and applying information about the potential of current threats. See, if we are having threat intelligence, we can have strategic threat intelligence, we can have tactical threat intelligence like TTPs of the attacker, and sometimes we also getting the operation threat intelligence, which include the type of attack, incident specific details, and all that. When we talk about this particular type, that is a threat feed is something that streams of real-time data that provide information on specific threats, often includes the IOC such as IP address, URL, and domain. So IOC is directly connected with the threat feed. So you are getting threat feeds from many vendors. Like if you are using a SIEM, so probably Cisco is also. You must have heard this word Talos. So Talos is a intelligence agency, and it is owned by the Cisco. So Cisco devices are having a high level of security just because of the fact that the Talos is the very good tool that the Cisco has acquired, and a lot of threat intelligence is being developed and given by this particular Talos. So all these things are related to the intel and threat field. Then we have a vulnerability analysis. So what does the vulnerability analysis means? Vulnerability analysis means that you are finding the loophole into the systems. Because if the bad guy, if this bad guy is doing, if this bad guy will do the reconnaissance or vulnerability first, then he can exploit. So before that, we have to done the vulnerability analysis. So it is basically the process of identifying, and you need to quantify and prioritize that what you need to do the things first thing first, and you need to find out the what are the security vulnerabilities in your systems, in your networks, and in your applications. Apart from that, what are the other IT assets you are using? All the details are very much important. It is proactive approach to find weakness before they can be exploited. It also helping organizations preventing attacks by fixing or mitigating vulnerabilities. So there are different steps in vulnerabilities. We have done a detail upon the vulnerability analysis, but let us see some of the important points. Like there is a very important point that is the asset discovery. Then we have a vulnerability scanning. Then you are finding the vulnerability of the assets that you have discovered, and then you have this particular vulnerability scanning. Then identification and classification. So you need to identify that can classify what type of vulnerabilities are there. You need to do a risk analysis, and a proper prioritization should be there, reporting, documentation. So all these things are the part of the threat box. So for threat hunting, you need at least this much amount of information with you so that you can initiate a threat box, a threat hunting mechanism into your organization. Then how to handle the threats. The threats can be handled using the solution box. Your solution box can be accompanied, or there should be a SIEM in it. SIEM is that security incidents and event monitoring. Then you can have XDRs, extended data response. Then SOAR, that is security orchestration and automated response. And also you have UBA devices, that is user entity and behavior analytics, and is used to ensure that there is no insider threat. So basic aim of the UBA is to ensure the uh, security threats before it's actually happening. So is something which is talking care about the automation. So if you are trying to go for a substation automation, or if you are trying to go for a digital automation, then a digital twin nowadays it's very much getting into the discussions. So these all things will be helpful in finding that what are the important things into the solution box. Then we have AI, artificial intelligence, as an important tool for solution box, and we have a MITRE attack framework that will be helpful for you. This is a very big and very good line. That is basically a Chinese proverb, a Chinese thought. If you know the enemy, know yourself. So it's very important. If you know the enemy, know first yourself. You need to not fear the results of the 100 battles. If you know yourself, if you know your enemy, you need not to fear the result of 100 battles, because you know what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats for the enemy. But if you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat because you don't know what are the TTPs of an enemy and how these TTPs can be an exploit to your organization, to your security. So these are the important points that we are discussing about the particular topic, threat hunting.